Hi, I'm Ms. Hollenkamp. I'm one of the 7th grade math teachers at GCMS, and we're going to go over the first lesson for scale. And we are going to be doing unit rates with ratios of fractions, including lengths, area, and other quantities. So what is a unit rate? You should remember from last year what a unit rate was and some examples of it in the real world. So we're going to review that. A unit rate is a special type of ratio. It compares one unit of one quantity to a different number of units to another quantity. So any ratio that is not a unit rate, we can turn into a unit rate, which is going to be what today's lesson is about. So you always want to be comparing to one. So this first example, 15 students per one teacher would be a unit rate because of the one teacher. The second one, $700 for 2 tires, is not a unit rate because it's the cost of 2 tires, not 1 tire. We can find the unit rate, which we're going to talk about in a second. Number 3 is not a unit rate because it's 360 to 4. Number 4 is a unit rate because it's 6 to 1, 6 inches per 1 year. Number 5, 1 ounce for 15 cents is a unit rate because it's got the 1 ounce. And then 1,095 words per page is a unit rate because it's per 1 page. So some examples of unit rates you see in the real world is the speed limit, because that 50 stands for 50 miles per every 1 hour as you're driving. You can see a unit price at the grocery store, like for example, this is the cost for every 1 ounce. And then at the gas station, it's giving you the cost for every 1 gallon of gas. So those are all unit rates. When you're at the grocery store, when you buy in bulk, sometimes you do that, the cost is higher, but it actually has a lower unit rate. So when this jar of salsa, it's the smallest jar of salsa with the lowest amount of milliliters, and then the largest jar of salsa with the most milliliters has the highest cost. But if you actually break down the unit rate, you can see which one's saving you money. So to find unit rate, what you want to do is you want to divide, but you have to make sure that you're dividing in the correct way with the y value over the x value, which we're going to talk about in a second. So if you think about it, you wouldn't want to do hours per mile. We don't say that. We want the miles per hour. Time is always going to go on bottom. So if I know I can drive 60 miles in 3 hours, that's not a unit rate. But if I divide it, I realize that means 20 miles every 1 hour. And because I've got that 1 in the denominator, it's a unit rate. If I know I can do 40 words in 2 minutes, I divide. That means 20 words per 1 minute. So my unit rate is 20 to 1. So if we're talking about which jar of salsa is the better buy, what you would want to do is the cost per milliliter. So you would take the cost, $6.29 for this one, for example, and divide it by how many milliliters there are, and that would tell you how many cents each milliliter is, and then you would be able to compare, and you obviously want the cheapest. So for finding unit rate, you want to remember to always divide, but you have to pay attention to the units. So for example, if I have hours and miles, you have to say to yourself, do I want miles per hour or hours per mile? Which one do we say in the real world? We always say miles per hour. The amount of miles you can go depends on how many hours you have. So you always put your dependent variable on top of your independent variable. So same thing with cost per pencil or pencil per dollar. Which one do you say? Cost per pencil. So that would be how you divide. Cost on top divided by number of pencils on bottom. I put some rules of thumb down here. Money's always important. We always want to put that on top. You want to do cost per item every time. So cost always goes on top. Time is always independent. Nothing affects time. Time's going to go by regardless of what's happening. So that's always on bottom. Feet per second, miles per hour. Those time increments are always on bottom when you divide. So like I said, we've got the independent and the dependent. Miles per gallon. How many miles you go in your car depends on the gas that you have in your car. The number of pencils, your cost depends on how many pencils you buy. How many slices of pizza I can eat depends on how many hours I'm eating. So that's how you can kind of, if you say it in your head, slices per hour, cost per pencil, you know which one goes on top and which one goes on bottom when you divide. So if we're practicing here, the number of students in the class depends on the number of teachers. So you would want how many students per teacher. You would take 110 divided by 4 and find your answer. Next one, like I said, money always goes on top. I don't want how many bananas I can get for $1. I want the cost of one banana. So you would take 540, divide by 45, and get your answer there. Do you say miles per hour or do you say hours per mile? We know it's miles per hour. The miles we can go depends on the hours that we're driving. So you would take the 780 in this case, divided by the 12, and find the unit rate that way. Here we've got feet and seconds. Do we say feet per second? Does that sound right? Yes. Does seconds per foot sound right? No. So remember, we've got time. It goes on bottom. So you would take the 15 feet divided by 2.5 seconds, and that would give you the unit rate. When you're at the store, this is a really essential skill. So we've got 2 brands of bleach presented here. Brand A is 96 fluid ounces for $1.79. Brand B is $2.12, but it's 182 ounces. So I want to say, which one am I paying the least per ounce? So remember, money goes on top. So for brand A, I would take $1.79 and divide it by 96. I would round 2 decimal places for cents and see how much that's going to cost me. For brand B, I would do the same thing, find the cost. And then whichever one is the cheapest for 1 ounce. I'm getting 1 ounce of bleach. I want to pay the least amount possible for that bleach. So most of the time it's better to buy the bigger brand. You're getting more, you're paying more upfront, but over time it's going to save you money because the cost per ounce is cheaper. Okay, we're going to get into complex fractions. So it's a fraction with a mixed number in the numerator, denominator, or both. So the same thing happens. You're just going to have to type these in your calculator. So pages per minute, time is on bottom. You would do 1.5, which is 1.5 as a decimal, divided by 5 to find the unit right here. It's no different. We've just got some more difficult numbers that we're working with. How many loads of laundry per ounces of detergent? I would want to know how many loads, how many ounces I'm going to use per load. The number of loads I can do depends on the number of ounces that I have. So I would do 15 3/4 divided by 7 to find the unit rate there. Here, miles and hours, miles per hour. So 6 2/5 divided by 1 1/3. If we're wanting a better buy question, cost per pound of turkey, I would want to do it, find the unit rate on both of these. So 10.50 divided by 3 1/3, write that down. 6.25 divided by 2 1/2, write that down, and then see which one is the cheapest of the two.